Welcome back. In this video, we are going to implement the undraw button. So basically undo button here. You can see once we click on that, it will delete the last entry on our drawing board. And yeah, let's just implement it. Therefore, let's go over to our project. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this image button here. And I'm going to call this one image button undo. And then accordingly, I need to use another image or another drawable, and I have this drawable. You can just use any drawable you want. I will just use this IC undo. You can download the project and get it from there. So this will be the PNG then that I'm going to use, and I'm going to assign it to my image button. So the idea is that it's going to look like this, where we have the gallery here, the image button, and then the brush size selector, so to speak. Okay. Now let's go ahead and use it. In order to use the button, we need to do the same thing, the image button. We need to do the same thing as we did here with the image button. So let me just copy the IB brush, and accordingly this will be IB undo. Here undo like so. Find view by ID, and accordingly we want to assign the onClick event for it as well. So, but I'm not going to call the show brush size chooser dialog, but instead what I want to do is I want to call a method that will undo the drawing. And here, by the way, this is not IB brush, but IB undo. So that was the ID of our image button, which is this button here. Okay, so where could we do something that has to do with drawing? Well, in our drawing view. That's where we created all of our paths, right? So there is this mPaths variable that is an array list of custom paths. Okay, and custom paths we saw is just our own class that we created here as well. And now what we are going to require is basically going to be the same thing, but one for undo paths. So an array list that will be a list of custom paths, but we'll just collect or store the undo paths. Now accordingly, we just need to create a method that will take care of the undoing. And how do we do that? Well, basically what we want to do is we want to delete an entry from mPaths, and we want to store it in mundo paths. Okay, so let's create the method for that. So fun onClick undo. So I'm going to call it, and I want to check first if there are any paths even to delete from. So only if there are paths, which means if the mPath size is greater than 0, only then do I want to add something to my undo paths. And what is it that I want to add to it? Well, the path that I'm removing from my mPaths. We can do it in one line where we say mPaths, remove at, and then the index. And what is the index that I want to use? Well, I basically want to delete the last entry. And how do we get the last entry of an array list? Well, by using the size of the array list minus 1. So mPaths.size minus 1. Because what the remove at method does is it returns the item that it removes. Okay, so we are basically receiving the item that it removes, and we are adding it to our undo paths. So this by itself would not call the onDraw method. This one here, which takes care of all of the drawing, right? Which takes care of drawing all of the paths. So here, mPaths, that's basically all of the custom paths that we created, and that's where it actually draws them. So what we need to do is we need to call this method once again. So this onDraw method once again. And we don't call it manually by saying onDraw like so, but what we can do instead is we call the invalidate method, which will then internally call onDraw. Okay, because this is an override method, and this is done for views, right? This is a method that exists inside of views because our drawing view is of class type view. So it's just going to redraw the entire page. So that's what our onClick undo method will do. And now we just need to call it. And the best spot would be once we click on the button. So here in the set onClick listener, we can just use this method. But because this method is in this drawing view class, we need to make sure that we use the drawing view here in order to get access to it. So here I'm just going to say drawing view dot onClick undo. So I'm just going to call this method. But because drawing view is a nullable, we need to add the question mark here. Okay, So now let's go ahead and test this and see if it's going to work. So draw, and you see the undo works perfectly. And let me draw some more, and also with different colors and stuff. And I'll click the back button and you see it works as intended. So now you could implement a redo button very easily. You know how to create the undo button. Basically, you just need to add back the last entry from undo paths tompaths, basically with the same approach that you have here, and then call invalidate. So I would say try it by yourself. Implement this as a little challenge for yourself. This will really help you to understand this a little better, and good luck with it. So in the next video, we're going to look at coroutines, which is a little demo that you will need to understand how to run code in the background. And then we're going to look at how we can make a sandwich out of our images, because we actually have two images here, right? The image in the background and what we are drawing. All right, so see you in the next video.